Welcome to day one of your 5-day Mindset Momentum Challenge. Today, we're starting with something simple and powerful. You'll discover that you're not the problem. You're actually running a process in your mind. And this process that you're running in your mind about the problem, it might not be benefiting you. And when you realize that there's a process happening inside of you, you immediately start to realize you have the ability in that moment to be able to change how you're thinking and feeling. So in that moment, where normally when you get stuck in a problem, in that moment, if you realize, oh, hang on a minute, there's a process that's happening here. In that moment, you can change it and it doesn't consume you. So you can have your little moments where you're feeling stressed or frustrated, but in that moment, you'll realize, hold on, I'm playing a part in this. So there's something that I can do about it to stop it. So this is your first step towards starting to get control over your attention and your emotions and getting back into the driver's seat of your life and starting to take some sort of control over your day and when challenges show up. So let's start with this. Just take a nice deep breath in and a really kind of slow deep breath out. So you're here, you showed up, and let's get started with this. What we're here to do is we're here to get you to begin opening up your mind to an idea that you're not the problem. It's just an idea. It's another way of thinking about things. You're just doing the problem. You're identifying with the problem. And remember, this is just another way of thinking about this situation, and it'll give you more choices in that moment to be able to stop yourself when you're feeling stressed out. The reason I don't get stressed out anymore, I can be in a stressful environment and challenges can happen and I can feel and sense that there's something wrong. I just have quicker ways of letting go of it because I know that it's a process. So I don't suffer and struggle the way most people do. And I want to share that with you so that you can start applying it to your life. This way of looking at it just gives you more choices, less excuses. And the more choices you have, the less reasons you will have to stay stuck. And that means you just don't have to have a bad day. You can just have a little moment where it's bad and you can kind of dust yourself off and let it go. So let me ask you something. How many times this week have you said, I'm stressed, or I am anxious, or I am not good enough, or I'm not good at this, or I'm fed up, or I'm angry, or I am a mechanic, I am a businessman? You know, all of these identity words that we use in that moment when you're feeling something or you're trying to identify with something. So here's what happens when you talk like that. When you say, I am stressed, your brain hears this in that moment. It hears this. This is who I am. And it identifies with it. This is permanent. And I'm stuck with it. That's what's being processed in that moment. It becomes your identity. And once something becomes your identity, it feels like you can't change it because that would mean you would have to change who you are. And that's what I help people with. I'm listening for these words of how a person is processing what they're saying and what they're thinking. And I kind of help them to loosen that up where all of a sudden they just don't feel the problem anymore. They feel better and they feel lighter. So I want to share that with you, how you can start to apply these principles to your life. So here's the truth. When you're stressed, you're not stressed. You're doing stress in that moment. And you're probably doing it about a specific thing in that moment, but it's a process. So when you're ready, you're going to try and kind of apply this to your own life because I don't just want to tell you, I want you to participate in this so that you can make it relatable to you in your life. So when you're ready, say this out loud. I am anxious. Say it if you're around people, you don't have to say it out loud, but say it in your mind. I am anxious. Now say this out loud or in your mind. I do anxiety sometimes. So I am anxious and I do anxiety sometimes. Which one is more true in your own opinion? Can you see the difference? If you identify with something, it will control you. But if you disidentify with it, you control it. So can you see the difference? Can you wrap your mind around the difference between I am anxious, I am, to I do anxiety sometimes? Because you don't do anxiety all the time. There is times when you don't do it. So that means it's something that you're doing. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not who you are, it's what you do. But if you identify with it, it's a trap. When you say, I'm doing stress about work deadlines, suddenly it's not so personal. This is the difference you're going to see between people who don't get stuck in these emotions and have bad days to the people that do. They're just thinking and processing this information a different way. Same problem, different process happening inside the mind. And when you turn it into something that's a process, you're turning it in from an identity into something that's moving. And when it's a process, it presupposes that in that moment there's something that you can do about it to change it. That's the presupposition, is that if it's a process, then I can change a process. But it's very hard to think in that moment that you can change your identity. I am anxious. I am angry. It's kind of set in stone. Then, if you identify like that, it becomes when you put it into a process, it begins to turn into something that you can actually work on. So I want you to do this now. In this moment, we're going to just start to kind of slow things down and get you back in control over your own thinking and your own body. These are going to be simple things. And over the next 5 days, you're going to learn some other really good stuff that knits all of this together. So this is the first part. This is an important part. Even if you can just do this and take control over your breath, it's going to give you something that you have conscious control over. In any moment when there's stress happening, if you just stop and you just take control of your breath, you can slow down your heart, you can slow down your mind, and you can bring your blood pressure down as well. So in this moment, just again, we're going to take 3 long, slow breaths. So just take a deep breath in and a longer, slower exhale. You're just slowing down your breathing. And when you slow down your breathing, you can slow down your mind. As you're doing this, just go ahead and relax your jaw and your tongue. And most of us hold tension there in the jaw without even realizing it. You'll see people clenching, even when they're driving. And even when you're trying to sleep, sometimes you might notice you're clenching. It's been proven that when you relax your jaw and your tongue, you slow down the inner dialogue in your brain, that annoying self-talk that goes on in your mind. It slows down your thinking. So when you relax your jaw and your tongue, it slows down your thinking, because the jaw and the tongue are connected to the language centers in your brain. It's that part of your brain that's involved in overthinking. So when someone's overthinking, you'll see that if you watch them, or if you're doing it yourself, you'll feel like your jaw's clenching sometimes, not all the time, and your tongue is kind of stuck to the roof of your mouth. But if you relax that and loosen it up, it slows down the inner dialogue. So if you're trying to sleep and you can't sleep because you're overthinking, just try that. Loosen your jaw and your tongue and take slow, deep breaths in. Nice deep breaths in, and just making your exhale about twice as long as your inhale. Just slower breaths, and it will change how you feel in that moment. So this is a simple way that you can quieten down that part of your mind. And it's easier to learn this stuff when your mind is quiet and you slow down your breathing. So it just gives you some space, some inner peace to be able to get on with your day. So let's do this now. While you're breathing, think of one label you've been putting on yourself lately, like I'm anxious. Have you ever said that? I'm stuck. I'm not good enough. I'm broke. I'm not good with people. I'm not confident. Whatever it is, just think about something that you would normally say that I am. Okay. Now, let's change it from an identity back into a process. Okay. Think of it like this. You're changing it from an identity back into a process. Instead of saying I'm anxious, say I'm doing anxiety, or whatever it is. Instead of saying I'm pissed off, say I'm doing a process in my mind that makes me feel worse. So you're turning it from identity into doing, into a moving process. It's something that you're doing because you don't do it all the time. So therefore it can't be who you are. It's a process. I am doing anger. You might have been doing it yesterday. It doesn't matter. If you're not doing it now, that's fine. That presupposes that it's a process anyway. When you think of it like this, it changes things. So instead of saying I'm angry, say I am doing anger. And notice the difference when you say it like this. One feels personal and permanent, and the other feels like it's something that you're doing. It feels more like there's a process to it, which means there's something that you can do different to change it. And I know this because this is what I do when I'm working with people. I always turn their fixed, static problems back into a moving process, because that's what they are in nature anyway. Everything is changing all the time, and everything is a process, including you and me. I know this, but sometimes they feel like it's static and they identify with it so much they get stuck in a loop. So we're turning this back from an identity into a process. We're just using language to change how you feel, using the words that you say to yourself to change feelings and move that feeling in a different direction that might actually be helpful. And that means you're not just a photograph frozen in one moment. You're not fixed. You're not a photograph frozen in one moment. You're more like a video. You're always moving, you're always changing, and you're always evolving. You're changing all the time. And here's the key. You're already changing right now. In this moment, just by showing up for this, you're actually changing. So remember this. You're not a thing. You're a process. You're always changing. Not one label or any label can stick to you, because there's so many different ways of interpreting who you are. But some people label themselves, and I think the mislabeling of feelings in society has become a big problem. It's when someone gets a label, it becomes their identity, and then it becomes a disability. So nothing can stick to you, not one label, because there's an infinite way of describing who you are. There's an infinite way of describing feelings, and feelings are changing all the time, so they're not fixed. They're processes. You're a process. So no label can stick to you. You're changing in every single moment. Every thought is changing, and they are processes. You just have to come to peace with that. And all of your thoughts are processes, which means there's something that you can do to influence them if they're a process. If they're changing and if they're always in flux, how can I change them in a more positive way? So here's some actions that you can start taking today. You can keep this as a process in your mind, or you can print off the printable version that's attached to this lesson. You'll see it, if you click on the link in the lesson, you'll see that there's a link there for a PDF that you can download. And you can write down the difference between the old statement and the new statement. If you really want to integrate this into your way of thinking, and if you want to integrate it into your total personality, where it becomes just part of who you are. This is what happens with people when they work with me. It just becomes their way of thinking, and they realize they don't get caught in problems anymore, because they have this new way of just letting go of the old way of thinking and changing how they think and feel for themselves. And they can't unknow it. Once you know it, okay? So you can also just hold this as a mindset and remind yourself to start thinking this way. You could even set a reminder on your phone if that helps. Whatever way your preferred way of learning is, everybody's different. Some people like writing stuff down, some people don't. So you can just kind of take a screenshot on your phone of these slides. You can do it whatever way that you want. That's the best way of learning for you. But writing it down, sometimes writing it down is better, because it sinks in more when you do it that way. And it means you're actually starting to apply a system to your life. Like, everything works better with a system. Even a business works better if you have a system in place, something that you can go back to that works, So here's your day one action plan. I'm going to give you something to take away today, to do today. You can print that off. These questions are on that. Today is about proving something simple to yourself, and begin to discipline yourself and start applying some sort of structure to your thinking. When you do this, you always have something to lean on. Just think about it as if you're creating a system inside of yourself that you can rely on. Change is not an event, it's a process, okay? So it's something that you can rely on when you have a process inside yourself, and you can always come back to it as life starts to unfold. So from now on, begin thinking of it this way. You're not the problem, you're doing the problem. And always see other people like that as well. They're not the problem, because if you see someone else as the problem, you'll fight with the person. But if you see it as a process, then you can fight with the process instead of the person. It's not as personal, It's the other person is doing the problem. They're not intentionally doing it because they want to feel that way. They're not the problem, they're doing the problem. And if you see it that way, then the two of you can fight with the problem instead of fight with each other. So if you have a partner that's got problems, or you've got problems, just see the problem as separate and call it that problem instead of this problem. It's a process then, and it's something that's external. So your task for today is pick a situation where you normally say, I am. Example, I am stressed. Um, I'm stressed about that deadline. I'm stressed about work or finances or whatever it may be. And write it down, and or you can just keep it in your mind. If you're not into writing it down, best to write it down though. Write it down or keep it in your mind and begin changing the language that you use. Start to practice changing the language that you're using. Even just if you're driving in the car, just if you catch yourself saying I am, or if you're just feeling crap and you could ask yourself, what's happening with me now? I'm sad, I'm fed up, I'm bored. Turn it back into a process like I'm doing stress, I'm doing boredom, I'm doing stress about that deadline. Say it out, you can say it out loud or even in your mind quietly to yourself. Either way is good, okay? There's no rules with this particularly. There is a system to it, but whatever way you can do it yourself that makes you feel better is the best way for you. When you do it, become like consciously aware. What's changing? What do you notice? Does it feel more temporary when I say it's a process? Does it feel like it's not fixed in and it's not like the end of the world? Does it feel more like there's something that you can do about it? Write it down. You'll see it on the paper. When you notice where you've changed about it, it's always good to notice where do you feel the shift, because now you're connecting the thinking in with the feeling, and your mind goes, oh, this does have something to do with what I'm feeling. Do you feel it in your chest, your shoulders? Do you feel your jaw easing? Maybe you notice your breathing is slowing down as you think about it. It's like, oh, I'm doing this problem. That feels great because I know now there's something that I can do to change it. I'm in control. It's not the outside world that's doing this. It's inside of me. There's something happening. Even though there's something happening on the outside, there's something I can do about how I feel on the inside, about what's happening outside. That's a relief in itself. Just knowing that, it puts you in a position of power. And just repeat this sentence in your mind. When you're ready, I'm going to get you to do this now. Repeat this out loud or in your mind. If you're around people, it's probably not a good thing to do. Just say this. If my thoughts are a process, then there's something I can do differently about it. If my thoughts are a process, then there's something I can do about it differently. If my thoughts are a process, there's something I can do differently about it. It's just a concept. You don't have to say it exactly the same way. You just have to hold it in mind. Also, later on this evening, if you have the option, you can do this, and I recommend that you do it. If you want to bake this in, it's been proven that people that skim through stuff don't really learn anything. People that actually slow down and watch stuff learn more than people that skim. So skimmers don't learn. So try your best to just go, okay, this is going to be like taking a bit of time out of my day. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to create a military style discipline for this in my life. Create this system in my life that I can rely on, that I can go back to as life unfolds, to the point where if I do it enough times, it's going to become who I am. That's just the way it worked. That's how we all became who we are now. Eventually, it was Mick Jagger that said, I faked the person I wanted to be, and then that person became me. That was Mick Jagger. So you can do this if you want. Is check in the evening time. And all you have to do is ask yourself in the evening time, oh, I wonder, did I catch myself turning I am into I am doing today? Just checking in and doing it in the evening time kind of starts to get your mind to think, okay, he's serious about this. He's not only doing it during the day, he's asking me just before I go to bed, like, did I catch myself saying I am or I'm doing? If you did, great. If you didn't, either way is good, right? Just notice that you have a new idea in your mind, a new way of looking at things. And when you do that, ask yourself, what difference did it make as I turned I am into I am doing? Just ask yourself. So that's it for today. If you want to print off the printable version of these questions to really let it settle into your mind, you can go ahead and do that. And if you find the printable version that works for you in this module of the course, then just do it. You can print it off a few times and do it. And let me know. You can come into the community. There's a community connected in with this app. You can ask me questions. You can send me messages. I'm going to be doing live videos on this particular course and all of the courses that I do. I'm going to be answering questions, and I'm going to be stacking the deck on this. I'm going to be kind of going over stuff in this, and I'm filling in some missing information that people would have questions in their mind. So go ahead, take the smallest next step, print it off, have a great day or great evening, wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing you in day 2.